And we're live.
Hey guys, this is the Land Down Under Book Club Hangout. This month we are doing my pick, which is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which is the first of the Farseer trilogy, one of many trilogies in this world. This book I actually inherited from my mother and read it as a young child, and we've discussed it a few times, me and Kirsten, because I know she loves this series as well. And we thought it'd be a good idea for us to do it this month, and apparently you guys agreed. So here we are. We'll start with a quick run through, shall we? And guess what, Mel? You're up first this time.
Oh, God. Payback is cruel. So I actually owned a copy of this book back when I was in high school, and I read it and didn't much like it, of which apparently hurt some people's feelings when I ranked it 2 stars on Goodreads, and so I promised that I would give it another go, being older and a much better reader now. Unfortunately, the 2-star rating stayed, and I got over halfway in the book, but I did not like it and ended up quitting, even although I did read the ending. Sorry.
It's okay.
Uh-oh, we've lost G. She's messaging me on Facebook. Good thing
we did.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm like, where'd she
Like,
go?
I'm pretty sure I clearly stopped.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm like, okay, who's next? Where did you go? All right.
Since we're down the other end and poor Naomi's just joined us, go Naomi.
I've been here the whole time.
Were you?
I've been in here the whole entire time. I was
Yeah.
the first one in the room.
she
We're
got
not
it down
That's
to
probably
me.
how she missed you.
And Mel, don't forget you're on the end on yours, but on everyone else's you're at the beginning.
Yeah,
You're
I
on-
know. Naomi's the only one that would be past me because I'm not on. I'm not on. I'm
Because
on.
you're under B for books. So the next person after you is Elizabeth.
I wasn't actually going in line anyway. I just went to the other end of my line. But anyway.
Either other off.
Now I'm really glad I didn't change my name to Dot because I'd be first every time.
Yep.
Apparently not because.
Oh, no, you'd be up.
No, apparently I don't pick myself.
No,
Yeah.
no, you don't pick yourself.
Sorry. Elizabeth, go!
Okay, I was waiting for everyone else to stop. I think I picked this up because it was a Kindle Daily deal, and I made my husband read them all because he's way faster than I am. And in my Goodreads thing, it says I liked it. I have the impression of having liked it, but I read all 3 in this trilogy together, so I'm having trouble splitting out what happened in the first book as opposed to what happened in the rest. But have an overall good feeling and good impression. So, yay. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. That's really epic for me. So
So did you read it quite a while ago?
I read it April, so that's 1,000 years ago.
Looks like Jee's trying to get back in, but she's not there. Hi, Vanessa. Can't hear us, I don't think.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yep.
I'm going to hang up and try again.
Okay. So I noticed everybody joined except for Naomi. I'm so sorry, Naomi.
I'll just sit here quietly in the corner. It's fine. Never mind.
All right, since Jee's not back in, we'll keep moving on. Karina?
My experience was a little bit like Mel's, except that I actually read the entire book. My husband bought this like 5 years ago, and I've always sort of looked at it and gone, oh yeah, I should read that, but never actually picked it up. And now I kind of know why, because he never really pushed it on me. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, I really nothing did. And it didn't drag, but I wasn't intrigued to keep reading it. I had absolutely ambivalence towards this book. It just, I don't know why. And that held up until like the last 50 pages or so. The whole wedding sequence, I actually really liked that. But the first 350 pages, I just sat there going, can something happen? Can something interesting happen? Please? Now? Anywhere. So yeah, I was really just nothing towards this book, which is kind of disappointing.
G, you back with us?
Yeah, I think so. I might drop out again. I don't know what my laptop's doing. Sorry about that. I'm assuming Kimberly's up next.
Oh, am I? Oh, yeah. Oh, I have to say I actually enjoyed it. I did find that there were some parts where I was a little bit wanted to hurry through it to get onto other parts because it got kind of not descriptive, but there were bits that I weren't interested in and I wanted to go like sort of skip them, but avoided skipping them to get to more interesting parts. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I think maybe because there were a lot of the wit that he has with the animals and everything, I quite enjoy that side of it. And I did find some of it wasn't as interesting as the rest, but I did overall really quite enjoy it. And I am interested in reading the following ones. And I do have a couple of friends who have read this, read the whole series, all, is it 9 books now? Of all of the ones that are out. Yeah. Well, there's like three different trilogies.
Well, no, there's there's 3 trilogies, and then there's a quadrilogy, and then there's a new series that has only 2 books out in it so far, but we don't know how many will be altogether.
Yeah, I remember one of my friends was reading in the back of the car when we were after he'd had an accident, and he just read it the whole way because he was in so much pain that he just sat and read this book the entire time, one of the big thick ones further down in the series, and he really enjoyed it. Well, he obviously did because he read it the whole time. And so I really like the character of the Fool, so I'd be really interested to read the trilogy that's got him in it. So,
He's in the next 2 books a lot more too, I think.
Yeah. Kirsten?
Yeah, this is like my favourite series ever. I got for Christmas a new copy of Assassin's Apprentice, which is a hardcover one that Matt got me.
Ooh.
And it came in a little slip case, and it has end papers like this, little pages on the side. And the best part is, in the beginning, it has an intro it has an introduction from Fitz and from the Fool and from Night Eyes, who is not in this book. I love his introduction the best because it says, "There is nothing of me in this book. It smells good, but you cannot eat it. Go hunting. Night Eyes." And I do forget that when I think back on reading this book, that my favourite character from the whole series is not actually in it until the next book. And I always forget that when I go back and read it. But yeah, I wouldn't think it's the strongest one in the series, but it's hard for me to separate out individual books. I have reread this one a few more times than I've read the whole rest of the series. But in my mind, it's hard not to think of it as a whole. But yeah, my favourite series ever.
Yeah. Naomi, you're up next.
So I did a quick reread of just the first book this time around because I did a read of all 3 books in the series September or October last year. And when I read them all 3 all together, I love them. But when you just read one and you have no plans to read the rest, you're kind of like, well, that was kind of a bit underwhelming. I feel like as a package, all 3 books together are really amazing because you get so much more character development as a whole. But I feel like the first book is it's kind of just introducing so many things that it doesn't really give you much of a sort of bite of story, if you know what I mean. Like, it just feels a little lackluster compared to the story as a whole from all 3. Like, like Kirsten said, it's not the strongest out of the trilogy. And reading it by itself does remind me that I do like this one the least. Like, I love them all when I read them all together. So,
Vanessa, oh, hi.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey. So what was the? I guess the question is what I thought of the book.
Yeah, just a general thoughts of the book.
Okay. Well, I read the first book and I loved it, but then I borrowed the next two books, so I'm just finished the third one. So I'm trying to remember what the first book was all about. I just remember I really liked the story, and then when it ended, I want to know what happened next. And I can't even remember what happened in the first book because I'm still thinking about the third book. But overall, I really, really loved it. So I don't want to say anything in case I spoil it for any others who haven't read
Is this
the
the
next
first
two.
time you've read them, Vanessa?
Yes, and
Oh.
it was great because I read it during the Christmas New Year's break. So I had heaps of time just to read, and I just sat there reading. I didn't want to do anything but read, and I'm still like that. I want to read the next book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like it. And I think it's going to become one of my favourite series.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I've got this idea in my head of what this this entire series and this entire world is about, and because I grew up on this series and I've read it so many times, I did forget that the first one is not quite as exciting as I thought. And after rereading it, I did revise my 5-star down to a 4 because I understand that it is a bit of a slog to get through, and like there is so many the starts of so many little stories that you don't realize are the starts of stories until you read the rest of the series. And they're the things that I was thinking of the whole way through. So I kind of had this nostalgic feel of how awesome the rest of the series is going to be and what happens with these characters further on. And that's what I think I love about it. So, and it's difficult to explain to people who haven't got that feeling. I really want to encourage you to finish it because it all happens in the last 30 pages, and then from then on you're like, I want more. You know?
Yeah. Me.
Yeah.
I read the last 30 pages. I was so past it by that point.
I can see you getting frustrated with it, Mel. I'm so sad for you.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like it's hard to go, hey,
really
stick with it for 3 whole books if you didn't love it. And it's, that's a huge ask for a book that you haven't enjoyed. But it's like, it is so much better, the whole series together. And yeah, the full, like, I forgot, again, like, I'm forgetting about Night Eyes not being in it at all.
He's not in it a lot, is he?
And he's not in this one a lot, really.
And he's such a major character, like, and to not have him in this is kind of strange.
Yeah.
He was the only character I was vaguely interested in. I just couldn't read anymore with that under those circumstances. Like, the Fool was the only one. And even that was not even, I like him. It was, I'm curious about him. I don't actually know if I like him because there was so little that you couldn't do it. It was a whole book, basically, of Fitz growing up. So it should be character development. So I would hope I'd be tied to him. I wanted to tell him.
He is a sweet little brat in this.
So many men everywhere.
That won't change if you read. The ones that I've just finished, like the newest ones that have come out. He's like what, in his 50s, older? I can't even remember. And you still like want to smack him upside the head and go, "You idiot! Why are you such an idiot? How can you have gone through this whole journey and still be such a friggin' idiot?" But I love him anyway.
Yeah. And
Fitz was not my favourite at all. And I wanted to love him so many times. And it's not even like in Name of the Wind, you have this dickhead male character who just makes the stupidest mistakes all the time. And it's the supporting cast that I kept reading that for, and it was the same in this one. So in the third book, where I'm not going to spoil anything, but something major happens and Fitz is split up from everybody, that was tedious. That was 75% of that book that I struggled with because I don't like Night Eyes. So, but this book, I know. But the gasp of horror. Because I like a good coming of age story, which the first one really is. Even I don't expect him to grow up. In the second one, I expected him to grow up, and that didn't happen. So.
No, it doesn't happen for a long time, I don't think.
Sorry about that night ice thing. Don't kick me out.
Right, you're forgiven.
You're going to get forgiven a lot easier than me, trust me.
Yeah, the lack of female characters was annoying, and yeah, that doesn't change. But the full male, he, she, them, they, are the most intriguing character I've ever read in a series, and I just wanted more of him, and I think that's why I continued reading it through the whole thing. Him, her, them. I don't know what gender he, she, them are.
He does kind of say, yeah, it's not important. Like,
Yeah, and he sort of changes.
He's kind of said in the past, like, that's none of anybody else's business, so I don't tell you, basically. So it's still
That's
kind of
making me like the Fool better.
Yeah, he's really good. I'm trying to think of another place where you could start that would be better, but I think this series has a terrible track of the first books being absolutely horrible. Because I remember the live ship traders, which are my favourite from this particular series. The first book, I always hate, like 75% of the way. Like it's not that it's a terrible. It's that I hate the characters in it. I hate the things that happen, and I just want to. Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, we'll see if you guys change my mind by the end, but at the moment I'm sitting on, I've got enough things to read.
Yeah, that's where I am too.
It's okay.
And it's a
like I
long
said,
series.
it's a huge commitment for a book that hasn't grabbed you straight away. Like I get what you're saying about the slowness of it and the not a lot happening, but I enjoy reading that just that everyday stuff that's going on and just slowly getting to know these characters. And maybe it helps that I read it long before Goodreads and book clubs and everything, when I didn't always feel this pressure to finish this book because I've got 25,000 others that I want to read. When I first read this, I had nothing else that I wanted to read, and I just read it, and it didn't matter that it was slow and took my time through it. I don't know, maybe that makes a difference.
But see, I read it the first time back in those times and didn't like it then. Like, had really bad memories of reading it and not liking it. I actually owned it and ditched it big time. I was like, get this book out of my life. So I've at least become more mild about it. I think she's a...
See, I just feel like the everyday stuff focuses on the wrong everyday stuff. You've got this kid who's training to be an assassin, and we get, 3 lines saying he was teaching me about using knives and poisons and stuff, and then we're not here anymore. We're going and doing other stuff that I really just don't care about. Like, the title of the book is Assassin's Apprentice. Why are we not following him learning to be an assassin's apprentice? That really frustrated me.
I think because it's his point of view, and to him that's not what's the important things. You know, I wonder, like, the live ship books are not written in first person. They're written in third person, which you get a lot more different characters' perspectives. So I think maybe that would be different, I guess. Like, if you're not really drawn to Fitz himself, it's hard to read these because it's written from his point of view the whole time, and it's his perspective. So if you don't connect with him as the character, it would make it very hard to read. Even though I want to smack him nearly all the time, I still connect with him as a character. And it's because I want to reach into the book and smack him, it's like, well, I care about him enough that I can do that kind of thing. Whereas I'm not just like, oh, whatever, I don't care what happens to this guy. I just, he frustrates the hell out of me, which is why I love The Fool, because The Fool calls him on it and basically is always telling him when he's being an idiot. But yeah, I think if you don't connect with him, that would make it hard being first person, like written in first person.
Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, Ash. Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Did you want to give us a quick run through on what you thought of the book?
I liked it. It's one of my close friends' favourite books of all time, so I was quietly optimistic, and I smashed through it yesterday. So it was really I really, really enjoyed it. I'm actually quite eager to read the second one now. So I didn't find it slow. I suppose I liked the pace. I really liked the language. And yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. So hopefully the next one's as good.
Well, if you enjoyed this book, the next book gets better. Like, the trilogy just gets better as it goes on.
Excellent.
Should we talk about some characters?
Yes.
Who should we start with? Should we start with Burrich? Is that how you say it? How do you pronounce it?
I always pronounce it in my head as Burrick, but when I listen to the audiobook, because I've listened to the audiobook version of this as well, they pronounce it as Burrich, like porridge, kind of like Burrich, like a TCH sound at the end. And it took me forever to get used to that in the audiobook, because I kind of said Burrick with the K sound at the end when I read it in my head. It took me forever to get used to that in the audiobook. So, yeah, pronounce it however you like.
Burrich. Burrich. Who would like to go first? I will. I've got to be really careful because I know a lot of backstory and you guys don't. But maybe we should just spoil it anyway because the people who aren't going to read it aren't going to read it, right?
But Erin hasn't gone on yet.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't mind spoilers. I'm good, whatever.
So we know he was Kingsman to chivalry, and that he supported chivalry in the same way that Fitz is supporting Verity at the moment, as in the skill, as in his eyes and ears, as in vowed to him for life kind of a deal. And having to take on the Fitz chivalry after being gored by a boar, I think changed his character completely. And we kind of missed the earlier Burrick, and instead we have this, like, he's also got this growing up story that's happening with the Fitz at the time. So I think that's kind of intriguing. And he comes across as a bit gruff because he's been dealt an unfair hand and he doesn't like it, and neither does Fitz. So they kind of struggle against each other, which I think made it a bit interesting, actually. Yeah.
Can I ask, in the future books, do you find out more about why Burrich is so against the wit?
Yeah.
Because I could tell early on that he obviously had some talent for it if he could sense Fitz with it. So I'd be interested to read more about that storyline.
Yeah, definitely much more about the wit and why he feels so strongly about it, and
Good.
I hated that about this book as well, actually. Like, I expected there to be more, because I know about the wit, I expected there to be more explanation about the wit, and there's really not.
I think that was one of the things that I struggled with, was it's sort of like, this is really just a story set in a medieval style world, and there's magic, but nobody's talking about it or doing anything with it, and the assassin stuff's not happening either. And unlike, because I thought that the comparison with The Name of the Wind was interesting, at least that one started off with the mystery to look forward to, and this didn't even have that. It was just world building. I was like, sorry, way off track.
It tends to, like I said before, it introduces a lot of stories at once, little bits of them, and makes you want to know more about them, but then only mentions them a little bit, and it has so many of them packed in there, and sometimes you just don't realise that that was the beginning of a story that is going to turn out to be massively epic in the rest of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Like The Witch.
Anyway,
Burrich. Kirsten, what do you think?
I kind of swing, and I'm trying to clarify, remember in my mind when I first read it how I felt about him without knowing all the rest. It's really hard for me to not think about, like, him as a character throughout the whole series. And I kind of, I think I was reading it swinging from not liking him to liking him, and kind of, I don't know, it's hard to make up my mind about him because sometimes he does things that really pisses me off, and then other times it's like, well, I really understand where you're coming from, and yeah,
I suppose a lot of those things that piss us off as well, again, are explained later as to why he's so gruff or why he's so like short with fits about the wit and stuff like that. What about you, Mel? Because you don't know about any of the rest of the story. What do you reckon?
I really felt quite ambivalent about him. I mean, obviously I was pretty upset at the point with Nosy. It was Nosy, right?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't finish the book. You know he doesn't die, right?
I skimmed ahead. I may not have actually physically properly read the rest of the book, but I skimmed ahead enough to get the basics of what was going on.
He's okay.
I was doing whatever I could to try and get myself interested in this story because I was like, come on, it's not hard to read, whatever. Anyway, get off your yeah, but I felt quite ambivalent about him because I was just like, he's not a bad dude, he's just doing his best, but I don't care enough about him to really care.
I think that's something Robin Hobb does really well, is she writes these characters that are not clear-cut, except for Regal, who's just like the most evil piece of shit ever. But but mostly her characters are very, you know, they're not completely good and they're not completely evil. They're people and they have their faults and they have their strengths and weaknesses. And I think he's a good example of that. Like, he's not, you know, your hero character and he's not an evil character. He's just this guy and he's dealing with a lot of shit. And yeah.
He used to be like the right-hand man to the king in waiting, like, and all of a sudden he's been relegated back to stables and isn't like in the know anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my favourite character.
Why?
Because I really like that gruff mentor archetype. It's in a lot of coming-of-age stories that I read, and so I really liked him. And the stuff that happens with him at the end of the third book, which I'm not going to spoil that at all, that was like, yes! So I really liked him. Him and Ketchikan, who's Belly in this book too.
I love her.
They're my favourite. And she is the reason that I kept going with that third book because, yeah. So, yeah, I really liked him, but just he is that archetypal mentor guy until you get his backstory. And I really like that.
Anyone else got anything to say on Burch?
No, that pretty much covers it. Like, the first book doesn't really give you a lot about him other than he's rough and you know that something has happened to, like, force him back into this position that no one would really want to be in after they've been in the right hand of the king. You don't really get sort of a full picture as to why or even why he doesn't like magic. So it's very hard to sort of get a whole reading of him without sort of more of like reading more of the series and getting a full picture of his character. It's really
Sorry, Naomi, I'm just watching your cat sort of trying to get in that bag behind you. Oh, now he's gone.
No, I've been throwing things at him. It's closed. It's a brand new bag of dog food. It's completely sealed, but he's trying to eat it. He's trying. Right, cat. I'm talking about you. Yeah, he just comes across as just cranky old man.
Yeah.
Rather than much else because you don't get enough about him.
I like at the end when Fix tells him that he thought that he'd killed, was it Nosy? I always get Nosy and Snippy confused in this one because they weren't, you know, they're not continue to be major characters throughout the rest of the series, so I forget about who's who. But he acts really, really shocked and horrified that Fix thought he'd killed him. Like, don't you know me better than that? That I would never do that to a dog, even if it was, you know, it was your fault, not the dog's fault. Why would I punish the dog for something that was your stupidity? Fix? Like, I really liked that.
And the realization in that moment that that thought had affected their relationship and the way they'd acted towards each other as well. That was like, well, if he had realised that Nosy wasn't dead, what would have happened? Would that have changed the course of the entire? Would he have gone after that bond that he had with Nosy, or I don't know. Yeah.
Mm.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I found out that Nosy was alive, but I couldn't figure out how he cut the thread between them.
He knocked him out and then transported.
Right.
Yeah, I paid particular attention to that scene because I remembered that really vividly, and that I knew that was the one thing that I remembered, that he was still alive. So I was like, what happened? What has he done? And I'm like, he's got to have knocked him out, because he said flash of light and pain and then dark. So it would have been, knocked him out and then taken him far away. Told him or insinuated he was dead, or maybe he didn't even realise he was insinuating that he was dead.
No, I don't think
So
he
that
did. I don't
severed
think
the connection.
Yeah.
I don't think he realised that Fitz thought he was dead.
Mm.
Yeah, that was sad.
I didn't like how all the dogs had to die just to save Fitz. That was really upsetting.
Yeah.
Like, stop killing the dogs, Robin. Stop killing the dogs.
Dogs are not supposed to die.
Yeah. It's like you find out Nosy's alive and then Nosy dies.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
Yes,
for some reason thought that he'd gone to Patience, but yeah, he went to, was it Rurus
Yeah.
in the Mountain Kingdom? I was like, how did he get there? Hold on a second. Yeah. I kind of like Rurus, actually. He was probably one of the standout characters for how little amount of time he got. I really, really liked him. I was kind of sad. I forgot he died all of a sudden, and I was sad that he actually did die. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Who was that? Sorry, I don't remember.
Katrikan's brother, the sacrifice in the mountains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I
didn't
liked
read
his
that
character.
bit,
He was in
did
it
you,
so
Mel?
he's in it it's so small an amount.
Hmm.
He reminds me very much of the Pictish prince in the Jacqueline Carey series, actually.
Which prince?
Drustin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So other characters, did we want to talk about different character?
Like Galen?
G? Oh god. Okay.
Galen and who was his brother? What was his brother's name? The other dude.
Regal.
Yeah, Regal and him
Regal.
were brothers. And that was the whole plot thing.
God, Regal was an idiot.
Oh, I can't stand Regal.
Regal was so stupid.
And a spoiled brat.
He's basically stoned all the time though. Like,
Yeah, stoned or drunk, yeah.
what is it? I forget what they call the drug that they're always using, but it basically sounds like marijuana. Can you remember, G? There's this drug they're always. No, there was one they're always burning in like little, and they have little burners in their rooms, and they smoke up the whole room with it and stuff. And
I thought of it more
the one that's
opium.
in when they're in the mountain thing and it's the blue smoke.
no, it's
No,
whatever
something
Regal
else.
do. Something that Regal. I see. This is what I mean. I get confused about what was in this book and what was in the whole series, but.
I don't remember them mentioning a specific thing. I thought
Yeah.
it was just that they mentioned the Queen enjoying different narcotics, and therefore Regal was following in her footsteps.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I should remember that.
and in the live ship books, they talk about it a bit too, because the Prince guy, and that was always on drugs as well. What was?
So,
Yeah, I won't be able to remember what it is, but yeah, I think
remember the carrots.
that's had an effect on him. Doesn't excuse all the shit that he does, but
No, it was his mother, the bringing up. His mother had always thought that he was more royal because she had more royal blood in her than the first queen did, and that he should be the next in line because he's the most regal and royal one.
Even the name, like you're naming your child for the traits that you want them to have, and you've got chivalry and verity, and you've got regal.
Regal.
Like, yeah.
Is there a fourth brother royal, or is that, did I misread that? Didn't the second queen have 2 sons as well? And she named them Regal?
That was Galen.
Oh, okay. I thought they referred to Regal and a royal in capital, but I must have misread it.
I don't remember that.
Galen was the queen's other son from another marriage. He was the half brother of Regal. Yeah. And her name as well, Desire. I was like, yeah, that's a great name for Shrewd to choose for a queen, isn't it? Oh dear. And the skill thing, that was another bit that sticks in my mind because it's one of those bits that I really hate. I hate the whole Galen teaching everyone how to learn the skill through torture and deprivation and
Basically
then
brainwashing them all.
Yeah, and like binding them together in this codier that's going to be working together through like fear and like it's like Stockholm syndrome almost, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Verity comes along and he was like, "Oh no, we learnt by looking at motes floating in the sun in the dust and damn." What was
and
Galen
you do feel
thinking?
like, and not just in this book, but in the whole series, you feel like Fitz is always getting the shitty end of the stick. Like, it's like, how can so many bad things happen to the same person?
And everyone seems to hate him
because
because of what his... Yeah, everyone seems to blame him for what chivalry did, blame him for being born basically the whole time.
Looking like his
It's like
father.
everyone, all the vast number of people who hate him because he exists.
Yeah.
Oh dear. And what else? The reveal that Galen was skilled into being so loyal to chivalry.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Well, that's why
these things that they barely mention that are really important. Like that's a really important thing. That's what set up this whole thing pretty much. And it's just like, oh yeah, this happened, accidental. We thought about reversing it, but we didn't. So
it reminded me of the whole James Potter teasing Severus Snape and everything that happened following that.
Because Regal must have been aware of it for him to hate Fitz so much.
I'm sure he must be aware of it. Like, he'd have to be.
I guess we'll never know now. Who else? Anyone else? Patience and her quirkiness with all her plants and stuff.
I love Patience.
Yeah. I like Lacey. And her what was it, Lacey? Her maid or whatever. She's adorable.
Yeah, I like Lacey.
And they're a huge part of the rest of the trilogy as well.
Yeah. It does get more ladies. I mean, they never become main characters until the last book, but it does gradually get more ladies.
I think the live ship books are much better for that. There's
Yeah.
some really interesting female characters in the live ship series.
Althea.
Yeah, Malta. Yeah. Anyway, Amber. Anyway, we won't talk about that.
What else?
Do we want to talk about the main characters?
What, Fitz?
Well, Fitz, I suppose. Yeah, I keep thinking of the Fool as a main character as well, but he's not really in this book. But
yeah, I was like, we should talk about the Fool. No, he's not really in this book. That doesn't really count.
He's in it quite a bit, but you don't really learn much about him.
Or her. Sorry, we should refer to the Fool as
You kind of
He
never do,
refers to
though.
himself as him. He refers to himself as him, so I might refer to
Yeah.
him as him. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you kind of never really learn too much about him, really. Unless
and
you
I
get into
found
the
that
later
the introduction that's in this book was really good about that because it says an introduction. Truly, you believe that a mere 2 or 3 parcels of scribbled words can introduce me to you? Do not imagine you can be so lazy and come to know me. Sit down, preferably near the fire. Draw the curtains, but not all the way. A warm fireside is best appreciated when you can see the night and storm outside. Send your servant to bring you a steaming cup of fragrant tea, or perhaps a small glass of golden apricot brandy. No, have him leave the bottle there beside you. Open the book. Welcome. That's the full introduction.
Oh,
I love that.
yeah.
And it's like it's him from, way in the future of this book writing this introduction. Like, Fitz's is the same. It's kind of like, yeah, look, the last line of what he writes is read with mercy. He's like, if I was only a boy and perhaps too trusting of people, read with mercy, basically. So it's like they're looking back on this book, these characters, and talking about these events from their perspective from the future. I think the introductions were definitely written for people that have read the whole series before.
I mean, because it's Fitz actually writing this down. Like in the beginning,
Yeah.
it's him writing, and at the end, it's him writing this all down. So it makes sense that it's all from his perspective. And yeah, after he's written it, he's gone back and written a little introduction. Like, don't be too harsh on me. I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. And even like when he wrote this, like there's so much that's happened after he wrote this down that you can see him looking back and going, oh God, yeah, okay.
It's one of those things again that remind me of Name of the Wind, that they're both very young characters and they do very stupid things, and you've got to remember that they're so young. They're not adults.
I had this conversation a lot with my husband. I'm like, why is Fitz just such a dickhead? And my husband's going, he's 17.
14.
He's 14, and he starts off at 14. Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm thinking the second one, like he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you
It's
forget
like
they're
reading-
too young.
Think about Harry Potter book 5.
well, I haven't read Harry Potter, but continually, like he'll be told, just do this, and he does the complete opposite, or just ignores everybody, and you're like, Jesus, come
He's
on.
a teenage boy.
Yeah,
He's got no idea what
He's a teenage boy.
I had to keep reminding myself of that too. I'm like, he's a
He
teenage
doesn't
boy,
get any
that's
better
right.
though. I'm sure he
no.
doesn't get any better.
He gets grumpier.
Goes from teenage
gets-
boy to old man.
More cynical, I think. But he doesn't learn to stop doing stupid shit. He just goes, what made you decide to do that? You idiot. Or like I'm wanting to scream at him about stuff like, pay attention to what's going on around you. Like even in the first, I don't remember.
Like
if it was
Molly's
the first
talking to you, she obviously likes you, you idiot. And then I go, he's a teenage boy, he's got no idea.
Yeah.
The whole Molly thing, yeah. That was like, are you a moron? Like, how blind can you be?
The rest of that Molly story as well makes me kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's spoilers.
deep breaths.
What do we think of Molly? I'll be interested to hear what people thought of Molly.
Well, she's
I love
not
the
really
whole thing with her name. Go on, Mel.
I just said I love the whole thing with her name, how he was calling her Nosebleed, and it turned out it came from her last name, actually, what it was and stuff, and I thought, oh, that was interesting.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids just call her Nosebleed because it sounds like her name. Sounds like her last name, but it's funny.
It was just so kids. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, it's exactly what they do, yeah.
Yeah, I like the introduction with the street kids. It was cool.
Yeah.
You're young, running through the streets, as you do, you know.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh,
So
Shane.
Oh, Shade, yes. He was
So did we all get who he was?
Who?
Shade,
Shade.
the
Oh,
assassin.
yeah. Fitz was a little slow on that one. I figured he'd worked it out already. I'm like, seriously, Fitz? I thought you worked this out before. I worked it out before. It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get the exact family tie, but I knew he was related to Shrewd.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes them related altogether anyway. I didn't know the exact relation down to exactly what it was, but I figured he was a bastard and related to the royal family.
Yeah.
And Lady Time.
Yeah, I was just going to mention her.
I really like her too, actually.
Great cover.
And the
Did
royal.
you miss Lady Time, Mel?
Lady Time.
Sorry, was that at me?
Yeah. Did you read about Lady Time?
She doesn't sound familiar.
Ah.
So Lady Time is Shade dressed up as it's like a disguise that he takes on.
No,
And
I
he
didn't.
deliberately makes himself like the most annoying person possible.
Lady
But
Time
no
was
one
the lady he was accompanying, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now I placed it. Got it.
Yep.
And that Royal didn't know who she was. Regal, sorry.
Yep.
So I'm calling him
Nobody
Royal.
knew who she was except, Shrewd?
Yeah.
How did Regal
Maybe
know
Verity.
that?
Yeah.
How did Regal know that Lady Time was supposedly an assassin, though? That confused me. Like, he didn't know it was Shade, obviously, but he...
Oh, maybe he knew of who Lady Time was, but knew that he was this. Maybe Shrewd told him that it was an assassin, something he knew because he was directly, was the royal family, one of his sons. But I don't think he ever was divulged that it was actually someone else.
I don't think he knew about Shade at all.
Yeah. No, I don't think he knew about Shade.
Because he never mentioned, well, no one ever mentioned Shade by name, but Verity obviously knew who Shade was. But by Regal saying, Lady Time, then he obviously didn't know who Shade was.
Mm-hmm. I think Regal liked to think he knew a lot of stuff that he didn't know. He didn't know a lot of what was going on in the court, but he liked to think that he did, but he was actually too busy just worrying about himself to notice all the things that were going on.
Imagine if he'd succeeded and he ended up ruling the 5 duchies, 6 duchies. That'd be crazy.
They would have been annexed to Chalced then. Was it Chalced? Chalced that was the one that he was getting all the arms getting now.
I think you're right. That's what happens later anyway, isn't it?
Well,
Sort of.
he was basically, that's where his mother's from, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
he goes to basically wants them to be like that place, which is very, like, you talk about the treatment of women in this society, and it's like, you think it's bad in the 6 duchies, go to Chelmsford, and it's like 1,000 times worse.
I think these kind of stories, like the older epic style fantasies that are male driven, actually work out a lot of these female issues, but in a smaller scale than we're used to. Like, there'll be one female who will break out of the stereotype and defy all of the men in her life. Whereas we're kind of used to that being the norm now, I think. And that wasn't quite the norm when these were written. So I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because I read Peter Pan today, and it's very misogynistic and very racist. And I'm like, and yet you still like it because it's that nostalgic fairy tale story from your childhood. Maybe that's a bit what I feel with this.
Yeah. I think it does get better as the series goes along, though. Like as the series as a whole, like the Live Ship Traders, I love some of the female characters in that. It, it's in the full when we go back to that. Sorry, the Fool's books don't really have much, but then go back to that Live Ship Traders world where they have the dragon ones, those 4 dragon books. There's not only some really interesting female characters in that, but there's actually a couple of gay characters in it that were really interesting as well that I hadn't seen before in this sort of genre, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Is it necessary to read the whole series in order?
It's not, I wouldn't say necessary, but I would think it would be better.
And the live ships kind of stand on their own as well.
A lot of people skip the live ships. A lot of people who love the Fitz books didn't like the live ships books. Live ships was my favourite.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting characters.
And the twist in it was great.
Yeah. But you could skip it and read and then go on to the next ones with Fitz and the Fool again. But you would be missing some really interesting things that they do reference back to later. Okay. Does that sound about right to you, G?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to say
the live ship's not essential.
Mm.
The live ship's not essential, but there is some important trade deals that go down that affect the Six Duchies.
Right.
And some important characters and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of books.
They're really good books, those ones. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say you have to read them quickly either. You can read them for years.
Yeah, but I'm impatient. I want to find out what happens.
Well, the last ones are not even written. Like she's bringing out a series at the moment that only has 2 books in it so far, and I think there's at least one more. Whereas when those dragon books came out, I was like, oh, the 3rd one's out, yay! And a friend of mine and I both read all 3 because we'd been waiting to read them as a set instead of just reading them as they came out. We were like, oh, we'll wait until they're all out and then we'll read them. And then there was a 4th book in that series, and we got 3. And I was like, no! There was meant to be 3. There was 3 in the first 3 series. Why was there not 3 in this one? No, she obviously couldn't. And I do think she rambled a bit in that series. Like, I think she could have maybe condensed it down to 3, and she rambled a bit and made it to 4 books. But it's like, oh, god damn it!
Is that a standalone or part of this world?
They're all part of this world. She has written another series that has nothing to do with this world. I didn't like it as much. I didn't think it was as good. I forget what it's called. Thank you. Did you hear that?
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
But yeah, there's 5 series that make up the realm of the Elderlings. Probably you could look on Wikipedia and see what order you're looking.
Yeah,
it's called the realm of the Elderlings.
Hey.
Can I ask, when Fitz was in the market and that lady was calling out to him, was that his mother?
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have been.
We never really get any.
There's no closure with that?
No.
Not that I remember.
I also kept expecting for her to pop up at the wedding because they kept mentioning all the people were coming from like the outlying villages. So I was waiting for more of that to happen, but oh well.
Alright guys, it's 10 o'clock so I have to run. I'm sorry. Have fun.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
What else should I say?
Yeah, I'm like.
there's just so much that happens further on that I want to talk about.
I know, I feel the same way.
And I really want to read the rest of them, but they are time consuming. They're not little books. Like, this is the smallest one of this series, I think.
Yeah. Although the newer
they're quite
ones,
large.
as they've come out, because I haven't read them before, like I found it a bit slower now that I've read them before. Those new ones, when they came out, I was reading them so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Have
That's
you
why
read
I want
the
to
newest
reread
series
it,
yet?
because I haven't even read the Rain Wild ones. I read
Oh,
the
wow, okay.
Wide Ship Traders, but not the Rain Wilds. And
Yeah.
I don't want to start them without refreshing myself, because I can't quite remember stuff. So.
But I
just
did
so
audiobooks
many.
when I wanted to reread these, and I was like, God, I'm not going to get time to reread them, but I really wanted to, because for the same reason I wanted to reread the Live Ship Traders ones before I read the Rain Wild ones. I did them on audiobook, and because I kind of listen to audiobooks at different times than I would normally read, like when I'm cleaning the house or whatever. So I found that was a way to get through them without kind of sacrificing wanting to read new things.
Yeah, I might give it a go. I watch a lot of TV when I'm doing that kind of stuff instead. So I don't do a lot of audiobooks. And I tend to find my attention wandering when I do audiobooks as well. So.
Yeah, I do have that issue.
Because I've read these and I know these so well, maybe they'll be alright for audio form.
Yeah, well that's what I found, was it was quite good, because if I did do that thing where I just zoned out, it was like, oh, well, I kind of remember the gist of the story anyway, and it didn't matter. and I did go, oh, is that how you pronounce that name? Oh, okay.
Is Kutrikan spelt pronounced like that as well?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I don't remember them saying it differently and me going, whoa, like with Burrick. Because I say Burrick, but they said Burrich.
I say Burich for some reason.
Yeah, I say Burich.
Yeah, I say Burich, yeah.
With a K sound.
I love that we all have different pronunciations for it. I think that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they said Kutrikan anyway. Sorry?
It makes the characters our own.
Yeah, and I'm sure that however you imagine them in your head is different too.
I find it interesting, though, that you're worried about rereading it, because I thought the one thing about it that was particularly good was that I found her writing, like, super smooth to read. I found it hard to pick up the book again because I just wasn't engaged. But when I was reading, I found it very easy to just keep going and didn't struggle in that respect.
I think it's more that there's so many. It's not that they're hard read. It's just that if I want to get to the one that's being released now, I have to read 15 other books first. You know?
Yeah. You could always do what you could always go to Wikipedia and read the synopsis. I think for the earlier books they're actually pretty detailed. I did that with this one to remember not to spoil things. And I've probably read it about 3 times. I didn't end up getting to reread it just before this hangout, which I wanted to do, but I didn't get to. But I'm like, oh, I've read it about 3 times, I'm sure, and one of those was the audiobook. So I'm sure I'll be fine, but I did sit down and look at the Wikipedia and thing and go, yeah, okay, this is the part that I'm allowed to talk about. I'm not, and I did really go, oh yeah, all the really interesting stuff has not happened yet.
Yeah. It's so disappointing.
And it is that, like very much a slow build, world building kind of book, this book. It's more about building the world and the character than plot, really.
I also just felt like the interesting parts of the world building wasn't happening, so at least to the point where I stopped.
Yeah. So what parts were you interested in that you didn't get more of, that you wanted more of?
The wit, mostly.
Yeah.
I wasn't even sure if I was actually going to be interested in it, but I was like, kind of at the moment, I just feel like I'm reading some sort of alt medieval type story, and I'm like, I don't really care enough. The world building didn't work for me at all, and I was like, I need some magic or something to make this a bit more interesting.
The skill's pretty interesting as well, but I think because that initial training was so painful, it's not quite so magical. Whereas it's like, it's a match for the wit. It's like they're like
two sides of a coin kind of a thing, in my opinion. Anyway.
That would make sense, but yeah. I look, to be fair to the book as well, as I had about 3 or 4 books sitting there that I really wanted to read, and that was part of the reason why I would have ditched it as well, because I was just like, I don't even have patience to finish it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a stack to read at the moment. It's ridiculous.
I always have.
Every time the only problem I had reading this book is that every time I sat down twice and I finished it in like, I read the last bit today because I wasn't very well, so I stayed home from work today. So it took me a while to read the last 70 pages because I was just going to read them at work and when I got home. But every time I have so much to do. I still have not finished like doing everything around my house, that every time I sat down I'm like, I'm just going to sit down and keep reading, so I don't pick things up because I know I'm not going to get up and do what I need to do. So I'm like, I go to pick it up and I'm like, no, I have to do everything else first. It's really bad.
Everything happens in that last 70 pages too.
Yeah.
It's hard. Maybe I should try her other series. I mean, clearly her writing style doesn't so much bother me. But then again, if she keeps doing the whole world building for the first book thing.
Try the live ship so that you can rage at me about the unfairness of it.
I read her collection of short stories, and there are a couple in that I really, really enjoyed, which is why I was willing to read through this entire book. But this just doesn't compare. Like,
you remember
there's a story there about there are like aliens living on Earth, and it's about an immigrant alien family, like literal aliens, and that was a really, really interesting and out there. And I think she wrote it as Megan Lindholm.
I was just going to say you probably would like her Megan Lindholm stuff because she actually has the 2 different pseudonyms because she has 2 different really different styles.
And she goes into that at the start of that collection of short stories. And I think there were some as Robin Hobb that I liked, but I think I preferred the Megan Lindholm ones, which, you might find that as well, Mel.
Yeah, that's certainly something to look into.
I haven't actually read any of her Megan Lindholm stuff. And I was the opposite. When I read that book, the Megan Lindholm stuff was the stuff that I didn't enjoy as much as I did the Robin Hobb stuff. So much more sci-fi. There was a couple of ones in that book that I was like, the Megan Lindholm ones that I was like, oh wow, that's really full on. And I suppose these books get there too. I mean, some of the stuff that happens in the school book. But
I think I just really like this style of story. I like the slow, long, epic fantasy style.
Me too.
I like that.
And
I always considered myself to like that, but I'm wondering if I'm sort of starting to move more towards sci-fi as a personal preference. And I don't dislike fantasy per se, but it needs to be something a bit different to capture my imagination.
You don't want the same.
Yeah, maybe I've read so much of it now. Like, I mean, I love David Eddings and, all of those sorts of things. And that's actually one of the things I was thinking when I was reading this is that, oh, God, it's just another boy growing up in a world and he doesn't understand shit and he's got to learn a whole...
Whereas with David Eddings' ones for me, I found very, very child-centered, I suppose, like more written for a child and very simplistic in the story. Whereas this goes to some really dark places and some really interesting places.
That's not what I got out of it. I didn't get it.
That's so funny that you say that. My husband used the word juvenile to describe this series, and I was like, oh, everyone's going to find that really offensive.
I wouldn't let a kid read it. Bloody hell. Some of the shit that happens in the next 2 books gave me nightmares. Like, I wouldn't let a child read it.
I don't think he meant that the story itself is aimed at a younger audience, just that the writing itself is what?
You're exactly right. It's not the story, it's the writing itself that I found.
It's not the story, it's the writing itself that he found juvenile.
I can agree.
Fair enough. Okay.
Sorry, he's getting ready for bed.
I did read the trilogy and quite enjoyed it by the end, but...
He said he quite enjoyed the trilogy by the end. I'm not sure how far this microphone reaches.
Tell me to speak just a little bit louder.
Well, it was good to know that he enjoyed it in the end.
Yeah, after rereading the first one, it definitely takes more than just the first book for this series.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, the trilogy should be the first book, not the first book.
Yeah. She's
Then the trilogy
definitely
would be like
long-winded.
this.
Like,
Yeah.
really, you could have gone, okay, let's have this book, this 3 as one book,
Yeah.
and then the next three with Fitz and the Fool in it is the next book, and the ones that have just come out is the next book. Like, she does
There's the trilogy.
take a long time to tell her story.
Yeah.
But because you've read so many, like I find because I've read so many books with these characters now, I feel like I know them like they're real people. And when I pick up the newer ones, it's so like catching up with an old friend. Like, oh, what's been going on in your life? Especially because there is a big time gap between this series and then the next series and then the next series. There's time gaps. So you are kind of like going, so what's been going on with you?
I was really excited to hear that this series that she's producing now is a Fitz and Fool series, whereas she's taken kind of a little bit of a break. No, I haven't read. I stopped after when the new Rainwild started. I haven't read them, and I'm going to do it in order. Damn it!
I would say the newer Rainwild one's the weakest of her trilogies.
I heard
I don't know whether
that's very good. I think that's why I haven't read them.
I wouldn't say they're not good, but they're not as good as the live ship. I was like, because I loved the live ships the most, and I was like, yay, we're going back to Malta and the live ship worlds and all this.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it did. Like I liked it more towards the end. Again, the first book was a bit slow, but I did like where they went.
Is there a gap there too in time?
Yeah, a little bit, not too bad. I think it's actually set.
A whole new cast?
No, I think it's actually set at the same time as the Fool books. And they actually make vague references to it all happening, I think. Like
well, I was still kind of confused as to whether is it Amber is actually the Fool or not. Was that ever revealed? You're not going to tell me how you don't.
Yeah, it's revealed, but your sister's decision to make a huge spoiler.
I don't know, because I heard that the timelines of those were paralleled. So.
No, it's pretty much spelt out that it is. Yeah. It's spelt out in the Fool books, in the the 3 Fool books.
I think I only read the Fool ones once. Maybe.
They do actually spell it out, and he comes back riding a horse named Malta.
Oh yeah.
And there's actually, can't remember whether it was in that book or one of the others where he becomes that persona again and Fitz gets the shits with him about it. I can't remember.
He's such a strange character. Yeah.
You find out heaps more about him in the new series. You find out a lot about the Fool, which is really, really interesting stuff. So.
Yeah, I have inklings of where he came from. And yeah, I have inklings, but I don't know if they're right or not.
Are they all
I'm going to have to read them all again. Yeah, they are. This is probably the thinnest one.
No.
Yeah.
Although I did notice that the new editions, when you look at them, are actually much thinner looking than these are. So
and the writing is thicker too, isn't it? Which I find
that's
really
the thing.
confusing.
I'm like, this writing's not all that big that you could make it into a smaller book. So I don't understand.
Well, it would be the paper, because I've seen that when they go to mass market, do mass market ones compared to the first lot, the paper's always a lot thinner. That's why.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how small they're writing or how many parameters.
It's almost transparent.
Paper thickness. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was reading my ebook reader, so I didn't know how thick it was. I just got a percentage and was like, oh, still 3%. Why am I not halfway yet?
It's so deceptive sometimes that way. It helps though sometimes too when it's a really thick and heavy book.
Yes. Well, I took it with me on the bus to read, so it was handy having it quite light. And yeah, I don't like damaging books, so if I took it on the bus, it probably get damaged. So yeah.
I think this is like my third copy of this one. So
this is my third copy. I've got that copy that you've got, which is falling to pieces, all the pages are falling out, and all the goldy, pretty stuff is all rubbed off the cover. And then I've got.
I love the borders because I've got this whole set, like the same covers, and I just love the borders on them because they've got. If you guys can see, it's got like the characters in the corner.
Yeah.
The shades.
So who's on the left? Oh.
Yeah, so I found that really hard when I was reading it. I'm like, who are these people supposed to be? Like, no, it's not how I'm picturing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how I picture the Fall at all.
No, I picture him more amber than pale.
But he is real pale in the first one.
And it's like that for every series as well. Every book they've got the different characters in the corners.
Yeah.
Nice bordering edges and stuff.
With the
Did you say the ones on this one were?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, but who did you say the characters were? So Fix.
So I don't know who that one is actually.
Well, I'm assuming that one's Fitz.
Because I thought on the back it was the Fool and then Shade.
And Shade.
Yeah.
And then is that Verity?
Molly?
Might be Verity.
Yeah, I remember looking at that cover heaps of times when I read it and going, who is this person supposed to be? Yeah. I don't know whether the person...
I bought the...
I think this copy...
I bought the pretty goldy calligraphy one.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
This is the library.
See, mine looks a lot... mine looks really thin compared to yours as well, because mine's really thin paper.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's the one I was talking about that's got the, that looks much thinner. My copy's from the library, and I reckon it's the same edition that I had purchased way back in school because this version was published in 1996.
Whoa. Okay, I reckon that was the earlier release, and this is more the mass market one. So it was a lot cheaper, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's probably cheaper, and a lot thinner. I know how thin the paper is because if you read and there's sunlight coming in from the side, you can't have your page sticking up. Otherwise, you can't see it because see all the writing through.
But I can only assume this wasn't the first edition though, because it does actually have the rest of the trilogy listed, and then the first of the.
Yeah. This one says first published 95.
Yeah.
So. There must have been an edition that came out in 95.
Yeah.
I've got another edition after this one and before the new ones as well. It's just like a plain silver cover with a bark on it.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
And that was thinner than this one as well, but the same like size, but thinner.
Yeah, there's quite a few different ones out there. Actually. I've got a found one as well as this one. I've got quite a few versions of collector's items of this book. That's how much I like the series. And Matt gave me this one for Christmas. He wrote on the little tag saying, because you have to have all the things.
All the things.
Yes, I do need to have all the things.
Speaking of beautiful books, this one is gorgeous. The typeface it's written in. It's beautiful. This is the Gollum and the Genie.
I've been eyeing this one
meaning to read that.
It's so pretty.
I'm just like club book.
No, it's not. It hasn't been picked by anybody, and I haven't had a chance to.
I know people read it as well, and it always gets really good reviews. That one.
Yeah, I have been meaning to get to that one.
It's and it's got the rough edging and everything, and the it's all lovely and rough on the outside as well. It's just beautiful, and. So it's going really well, but
hardcover?
No, it's a soft cover, but it's got that hardcover thing on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also got the rough edges, which usually you only get on hardcovers. So it's sort of like it's like maybe they changed their mind after they printed it out the pages or something.
I'd say they probably use a hardcover version that's more like that, and then
probably. But you know what? I don't feel like I need it. Like this is that slightly bigger size that it feels like it's a hardcover, but it's the softness of it's really nice because it sits open beautifully. And that's an unread book, so I didn't do anything special to make it happen. It's just a really good book.
Yeah, that one's
I love a
definitely
pretty book. There's nothing quite like a pretty book.
I tried to not buy physical copies of books unless they're pretty ones now. I've got so many books that I don't want to just buy, a paperback or something. I'll either get it from the library or get it on Kindle. I'm buying it when I want them nice on my shelf, basically. So I don't even know if I'll ever read this because I have another version that's like a crappy paperback that I can read without having to worry about wrecking it, whereas this one's just also pretty
display.
It's funny you say that because I've got this thing that once I own the copy of the book, I feel like I need to read that version of it.
Yeah.
So I feel bad if I don't, like I haven't had that emotional connection of having read the version that's in that book. So even though I read The Goblin Emperor last year, I read the library's copy, but I loved it so much I bought my own, I had to read that copy.
I feel that about my Wool trilogy. I haven't read the Wool one. I read Half of Shift and All of Dust in paperback, but I did not read Wool, and I feel really bad. It's sitting there going, I haven't been opened.
Like, I bought this thing, and now it's not really fulfilling its use.
Yeah,
I did
because I bought Shift and then Dust, I had to buy Wool.
And then Xander started climbing in my lap and putting his hands all over it and trying to read it himself, and I was like, okay, this book's going back on the shelf.
There is another level of difficulty when you've got young hands around.
And he loves, and I love that he loves books. That he absolutely loves books, and he cannot see me reading a book without climbing into my lap to want to look at it. Even though it's like, you realise this book has no pictures in it, and I'm not reading it out loud to you, but he just loves books.
Was it when we were in that when we did when we went to Melbourne? We went into that little bookstore, the kids' bookstore with the pop-up books, and he's like, "This is where you handcuff your kids." And all that.
Well, we have got
like, don't get them, let kids near them.
He's too little at the moment too, because we have got a piece of a spot book over there that needs to be reattached to the spot book. They have those little flat things, and I think he gets, and he's ripped one off one of his books, and I'm like, oh. But because he didn't understand, because this book had ones that opened to the side and ones that opened up. Yeah. And so he'd go to open it, and it's one that opens up, and he wants to turn it to the side like a page, and he just tears it off. And I'm like, oh. But I don't want to not let him touch books either. Like, he's got so many books in his room. He's pretty good with the normal books, but the ones with those lifter flap things, he just ends up wrecking.
But that's almost all kids that happens with. It's just something that happens. They love them, and so they want to play and they touch and things break.
Yeah, it's sort of kind of like you're walking that line of, well, I don't want him to not ever touch books. I don't want it to be, I only hold the book and you only get to look at it, you don't get to actually touch it, because that's kind of takes away part of the joy of it. Yeah. But it's like, please don't wreck the books.
Oh, you know what? My cousin messaged me today saying, asking where the best place to look for the Goosebumps books is, because one of her little boys wants to start reading the Goosebumps books. I'm like, oh, I loved those as a kid, R.L. Stein books. I eventually got used to it. Yeah, but with his singular novels, I used to be able to guess who it was all the time, because it was always the one he didn't talk about, and I always knew who it was after that, and I stopped reading them because I'm like, it's just so formulaic. It's the one he doesn't talk about. It's the person you least suspect, because he gives you no motive for them until after the reveal. I'm like, But yeah, so I pointed her to Booko.
Yeah, I never really read a lot of those as a kid. I think I read
quite a lot. I think there was a lot in the library. So
I think I've
There's
got
still
70
like
of them on ebook.
there's still lots and they're still popular. Like
Yeah.
There's a movie
having
coming.
worked in the school library
Yes,
recently
I
and
did
had to do
see
all the
that, yeah.
reshelving, I reshelved a whole lot of Goosebumps books and I was very impressed that they'd all been catalogued together, so I didn't have to. Because the librarian at that school, she did a lot with a lot of books that are not so much the Goosebumps, I suppose, because they're mostly R.L. Stine, but there are quite a few series books that had different authors all writing in the same series, and she actually catalogued them all together as like one section instead of cataloguing them under each author, because it's so much easier to find them and reshelve them.
Yeah.
I've noticed some children's libraries, some school libraries now tend to have a series section so that they can just put lots of series next to each other rather than mixing them in with the rest of the books.
Yeah, well, she didn't have a section, but like, so there's a series called My Story that are written by lots of different authors that are sort of historical fiction books, and she just had them catalogued under MYS, My Story, and so they went with all the M's, but they were all together on the shelf, and even though they were all different authors, because otherwise the kids that go, oh, I really like those My Story books, they have trouble finding them because they're all in different spots in the library because they're all different authors.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really smart the way she did that.
That's one of my favourite reasons for having Goodreads is that like I can look up series lists and things along those lines, and especially like figuring things out where you want to start and what else you can do and things like that. It's just so good for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Goosebumps website, and they've got the classic series, and then they've got a 2000 series or 2015 series, and then they've got the movies as well, or some movie thing as well. I didn't read too much into it. I'm just like, well, he's probably going to want the classic ones or the new ones, so.
Yeah, like a whole shelf of them.
I think it's 33 or 35 of the classics.
Yeah. And they do, like, they still get borrowed all the time. Like, they're not sort of something that kids have gone, oh, those are old and we don't read them anymore. They're really, really popular.
Makes me wonder, why isn't somebody meeting that need as a contemporary writer now?
Yeah.
I'm going to head off, guys. It was good to see you all. And
see you later.
Hopefully see you next month. Bye.
Bye. Have a good month.
I think we're done talking about this book anyway.
Yeah, I think we've got
anyone else wanted to say?
That doesn't sound like us, does it?
I had a question. Did we ramble off topic?
I thought we were quite well on topic tonight. We did well.
Yeah, we were. We did stay until we finished talking about stuff.
Yeah. I think Vanessa's got something though.
Yeah, the name Fitz, is that meant to stand for something? Because it seemed like there was importance placed on names. So, you know, she represented their personality. And then what was Fitz?
I figured it was a term that meant bastard.
Yeah, because they said something like Burrick would call a spade, basically. Yeah.
So he calls the Fitz the Fitz.
So I assumed it.
And I think Fitz is more like meaning son of. You know, like when someone's last name's like Fitzgerald or
Fitz is a prefix.
So that would, that would make sense with what Verity called him in the logbook, that he called him Fitz Chivalry, because that would mean son of chivalry.
Yeah. So, and Fitz Chivalry is his proper name.
His actual name,
Yeah. So Fitz is
besides Catalyst.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Which was again something really vaguely mentioned in this book, but not actually, expanded upon. And again, becomes a huge thing later on.
Or Tom.
Sorry,
Tom Badger.
I'll score you, Tom.
Comes from the Norman French noun meaning son of, from the Latin son.
But I think in this series they do kind of mean it to be bastard more than anything, because that is put in front of their names. And see, the thing of having names like Regal and Verity and Patience and all these names that mean character traits, I don't think it's in this book. No. But when they're named, they name them what they want them to be, and they go through this, like, it's almost like a christening ceremony, but it's a name-giving ceremony where they try to use, basically, I think that they try to almost use magic to kind of imbue that person with
Divine.
the qualities of the name that they've chosen. And they haven't got that for Fitz because he never went through that ceremony because he's a bastard. So it's only the people in the royal line that get given these names where they're supposed to mean something like that.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. That was just something I was curious about.
I'm sure that in one of the books they go through what the ceremony is, like something about a fire, and I can't remember.
I think he actually gets it later on.
I think it was briefly mentioned, but I don't remember the name. Like I didn't think
There
it
was
a weird
one
name.
that was a little bit different, and that was the Catalyst one. But that wasn't like his naming ceremony. Like he was written in the book as Fitz Chivalry, and that would be his name, but he was never named, so that's why they just call him Fitz rather than Fitz. But Verity did the proper thing and wrote his name down as Fitz Chivalry because that is what his name would be.
Yeah.
Verity's very cool.
There's a couple of other Fitz somethings in the series. I can't remember which book in the series, but there is a character that's called Fitz something. Because they're the bastard of that person. I don't know who that was. Minor character.
So what book are we on next?
Next is Tooth and Claw, which is Liv's pick. And after that is the first 3 of the Harry Potter series for our series read. And Sarah has announced her pick for April, which is Full on the Hill.
Cool. I need to find that.
You may find your best bet is actually buying it.
Yeah.
I had a quick look.
I think we did look in the library and it wasn't there.
I did a quick look across Victoria. There's 1 copy in the state.
Oh, wow.
I'm lucky enough that I own it because she gave it to me for Christmas. But I thought I'd have a quick look. I think it's probably, because I think it's one of those older books, so you might get lucky, so it's worth checking. But it's certainly not prevalent.
You try second-hand bookshops.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of Brotherhood books?
Not in my library.
I have heard you mention it before. Yeah, it's like a second-hand online bookstore, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's where are you? I hit return and you did that. Why? Brotherhood. Brotherhood books. I'll link you guys. This is, I don't know if they've got it, I didn't even try, but this is a place that sells, so it's one of those charities, but they actually have an online store for all of their books so that you can order them. So I found them because they're advertising at our cinema.
Really?
Yeah, but they send all over the country as far as I'm aware, so...
I don't like having
more
to
books
click that age bracket. It's like asking me to join the club when I go to this website. And I'm like, now I'm in the 35 to 44 age bracket. I don't like that.
Bad feeling, isn't it? No, I've just had a look. They don't have Full on the Hill. But that's how I got my copy of The Sparrow, I think, for last year.
Okay.
So it's always worthwhile checking because I find that they're a lot cheaper than... aid books, because aid books usually means you've got to get them internationally. And I think Brotherhood Books does free shipping for if you get 3.
Yeah. That's
okay. I'm looking at Tooth and Claw, and they do have that in my library, but then I looked at the Goodreads, the cover that they use as the picture for Goodreads. I'm like, oh, I really like that cover.
Yeah. I did order Tooth and Claw.
It's a short one, and it's a Joe Walton too, so that's...
Well, that's why I'm thinking I'm tempted to actually buy it, because I did enjoy...
that cover is pretty. Is that the red one with the dragon?
The other one
red one with the gold.
Yeah, the red with the gold, and it's like, oh, that's so pretty.
That's the
Should
one
I do that instead of getting the library book?
I've actually gotten really lucky. Liv picked a book that I owned. We're doing Harry Potter, and then Sarah picked a book that I owned. I got really lucky.
So you already own the Joe Walton one as well?
Yeah, my sister gave it to me for Christmas last year. I gave her like a list of books and said, pick what you want and just get it for me.
Well, she probably saw like the does yours have like the little thing on the front that says the Pride and Prejudice of the Dragon World?
Is it the burnt sort of reddy brown cover with gold? Yeah, that's the one I've got. So yeah.
Yeah,
that's a really
it has the little
cover.
quote on the front, the Pride and Prejudice of the Dragon World. She probably thought, well, you like Jane Austen.
That's actually why it went on my to read list in the first place.
That and it's a Joe Walton.
Yeah, it's a Joe Walton. It was pretty much a given. It was like, yeah, totally doing that one.
Yeah, geez, even none of my libraries have it either, I don't think. The Fall on the Hill. They have all the other all these other Matt Ruff books, but not that one.
Yeah, what else does Matt Ruff write? I've heard of his name before.
It's Mirage, Bad Monkeys, Lovecraft Country. I've seen Mirage, Bad Monkeys on there.
Right, yeah.
Not that I've read any of them, but they're the ones that keep coming up.
But I keep hearing about him.
Hmm.
Actually, we're organised further than I thought. May's done the series read as well.
Oh yeah, May's series read again, yeah. Again.
I'm going to have to buy some of the rest of the Harry Potters. I don't know where I'm up to.
I'm going to have to find a box set or something. I want to buy a box set.
I want to buy the new ones that are all the illustrated ones.
Oh, yeah. Haven't they only done the first one?
Yeah, but they're planning to bring them all out, and I'm like, well, I don't have the money to buy 7 books all at once anyway, so it might be good to just get them as they come out.
Yeah,
because they look like they're going to be really nice.
I'm really excited because I purchased because I always had the first 3 in softcover, and then of course the rest of them were in hardcover. So when Borders was closing down, I purchased the first 3 in hardcover and got rid of my other one. And I'm very excited.
We were trying to do that. And we've got the first 1 in hardcover, but I think 2 and 3 are still in softcover, and the rest are hardcover, and it's like frustrates me. So that's why I'm like, maybe I should just replace them all with the illustrated editions as they can come out.
There was that box set that I think they're hardcover bound and they're in a chest.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I found it. It's like $300.
Yeah.
My problem is, what would I do with the chest? Afterwards, like, would I leave them in it, or would I?
The box? No, I'd leave them in there.
Well,
see, I've only got one, and it's only because my friend left it for me when she moved. So I've only got 1 hardcover book out of all the others. I borrowed them all from the library.
Oh no, I could not have that chess set. That's the US editions. No.
No, I'm with you. I like the British version much better.
What's the difference?
Apart from the title of the first book.
Oh. Is that all?
And there are a couple of things that were actually taken out or changed in the US edition.
Yeah.
I think they changed them back after a couple of years, but in the very original one, they actually changed bits of it to make it more friendly.
Yeah.
In a kid's book.
I'm sort of like, I don't know whether I care about that or not, but I know that I don't want it to be my version.
Yeah.
I did pick one at one point, and I think I really like the children's hardbacks in the red or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That comes in a little box that opens up.
There's a person who online has developed their own covers that you can buy and just wrap them around your hardcovers if that's what you've got. And they've done them in all of the different houses, so you can buy the Gryffindor covers or you can buy the Slytherin covers, and it's just paper, so it's not like you're getting the books. You just get the covers, and you can put them on the ones you've already got.
That's pretty awesome.
I thought about doing that, but then I really, really like the original artwork.
Mine are literally like the first sets.
That's actually not the first cover.
No, the one with the stars is not the first one.
No, I had the first one, which had Dumbledore on the back, and he had a short brown beard.
Yep.
Goatee style beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can't remember the one I've got.
Which is funny, because it's not how he's described in the story.
No, it's not. I got really upset when they brought out the new ones because I had never registered the fact that he's not described like that, and so in my mind that's what he looked like.
I remember trying to figure out if that was meant to be Dumbledore or Quirrell, just because it didn't look like Dumbledore, but how could it possibly be Quirrell?
Yeah. So I actually got rid of that cover when I got the new ones, and I've now got the new hardbacks. Sorry, the original hardbacks. But now I sort of cry over it a bit because I'm like, but I had one of the very original books which had the wrong picture of Dumbledore. Why didn't I pick that?
No, I lied. I actually have two. And again, they're both not mine. Well, both left to me.
So this oh, nice. Yep.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I've got. This one that I just put a link to, the deluxe illustrated edition, have a look at the price of it for one book.
Oh no.
God.
It's very pretty, but I don't think I have that much money.
Not for a book. There's a lot of other books I could buy.
But there is an illustrated edition that's $59.99, which is much more reasonable. That still looks really beautiful.
I want to know what Naomi's holding up.
Ooh.
Click on her picture for us, Mel.
Hang on, I'll click on your name.
Is that in a different language?
Is she talking?
She is.
I don't know, I can't hear her. I've had to click her. Harriet Potter.
And the philosophy
in Latin.
Philosophy Lapis.
Is it in Latin?
Yes, it's in Latin. She's nodding her head.
Wow.
Naomi, can you please post that for Elizabeth because she's studying Latin.
Wow, that'd be a good way to learn it.
Wow.
And she hasn't read Harry Potter.
No, she hasn't. She refuses to, apparently.
But you should read the Latin version.
It would make the spells interesting because most of the spells are sort of come from Latin. So
yeah.
That would be unusual. Anyway, yeah, so that's up till May, and then it's Matt's pick in June.
He hasn't picked anything yet?
No, he's not supposed to. I'm not even going to nag him for at least another month or two.
This is like 5 months away, so we're
He'll have a few things in his mind that he's ticking over thinking about, I'd say.
Yeah.
He'll probably...
In the front of this one, it says Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is also available in Latin, Ancient Greek, Welsh, and Irish. Harry Potter, Philosophy Lapis, the Greek I can't read. Harry Potter, Main, Year, Athronid, Harry Potter, Agus, and... Oh, I can't read that. I can't read Welsh. I can't pronounce Welsh or Irish, and I cannot read the Ancient Greek, obviously.
I was impressed, though, that you got a bit phlegmy there, so nice. Yeah, no, Matt doesn't need to pick anything yet, but probably about 3 months out I'll start nagging him and say, hey, thought about it yet? Because sometimes we need time, like Full on the Hill, to get the book.
Yep. So at least I've got 2 of them to read. They may be like the ones in the middle, but... Oh, no, definitely no, it's not.
No. What have you got? You've got 5 and 6, was it?
Yeah, Deathly Hallows and Half-Blood Prince. So I think that's...
No, they're like the end.
That's 6 and 7. So you've got what you need for November.
So you've got the ones that I need, and I've got the ones that you need.
Yep.
Together we have a complete set.
Yeah. Because I was looking at one of the box sets is like $1,000, which has the originals in it. So I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. Oh no, the original paperbacks. Oh, that's probably because it's
one Powerball.
So it's on rebate.
The one that I just put a link to is Utopia's illustrated edition, and has some pictures of what it looks like inside. It's actually not that bad. It's $41.95 on Booktopia.
Really well.
Oh, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
That's the one that I've been seeing around a lot.
Yeah, they're in every shop at the moment.
Yeah, they're really nice.
$42 isn't bad. Yeah.
That's not bad at all for a hardcover with illustrated hardcover.
Yeah. Just for a hardcover, 42 is well up there, but pretty good. So illustrated hardcovers.
Yeah.
Especially
I think some of the spells are spelled differently in the Latin, if you guys can hear me now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was having microphone issues.
I suppose they're kind of adapted Latin, the spells.
Yeah, the spells are adapted Latin, not actual Latin. So I think the spells are like they're spelt in actual Latin in this book.
Wow.
So it's weird, but yeah, it's really cool. I'll post a picture so that Elizabeth can see it. Because Lionel actually bought it because he did Latin in uni, so he thought it was really cool that he could like read Harry Potter in Latin.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be a really good way if you are trying to learn the language to help you pick it up. I remember when I was learning German at school, they did get us to read some children's books written in German, and it was much easier to kind of pick up how the language works when you're reading it as a book rather than just looking at chunks, I suppose.
I think it would be really good to do it with a book that you're already familiar with too.
Yeah.
Well, this box set is the UK version, just the hardcover box set. Still like $230.
This is those are the new covers that are out.
Yeah.
It's weird. Some people's names are just spelt like normal, like Neville is spelt Neville and Ginny is spelt Ginny, but Harry is spelt Harrius.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where they've linked it to to Latin, whereas some are just new names and don't have any translation. I guess some are old names that have a
have a base.
I reckon too, the publishers would have wanted it to be Harrius Potter on the cover because it makes it catch your eye and go, what's different about
Harrius Potter?
Yeah.
Whereas the other characters.
Harry Potter. Oh, it is Harry Potter.
Because if it just said Harry Potter on the cover, like, and you didn't look inside and didn't read that it said that it was in Latin, you might buy that copy and then go, oh crap, I can't read Latin.
Because in the Welsh, Harry Potter spelt with an I. Harry spelt with an I. In the Irish, just Harry Potter. Yeah.
There you go.
But no, this is my favorite cover of Harry Potter. Like, even all the hardcovers of English that I've seen, like, they're not, like, the actual book isn't this, like, really nice black with gold imprint. Like, I've never seen it like that in any other language. So I really
it's only like that illustrated special edition, like blue with the gold imprint.
Yeah, I've never seen it sort of like that before. So I like that specific cover. It's really pretty.
The other covers that I actually quite liked was the adult versions that they brought out years ago. I quite liked those. They were nice covers.
Yeah, I've got the adult cover in book 7, and that's the only one. And it irks me so much because I've got all of these ones for every other one except for book 7 because that was allotted to me because I pre-ordered it from Borders and then turned up at 6:00 in the morning in line to pick it up when they first opened their doors, and I was in the adult cover. And I was like, but, what is this? I don't want this.
Surely they would have had spares. They could have given you a different one.
That was just what was allotted to me. Like, they were just opening the boxes and giving them out kind of thing. They weren't actually like... And I was just like, but I want the other one, so it matches all my books.
I wouldn't have paid for it. I wouldn't have paid for it if I would have said, sorry, that's not what I wanted.
I wanted to read it, and I didn't know if I'd be able to get it if I left. So I was just like, I'll take it, and I can always buy another book. It's really not that much of a hardship.
See, we actually pre-ordered, I think, book 5 and book 6 we pre-ordered. When book 5 came out, Matt was still working in the bookshop, and when book 6 came out, he hadn't been finished up there for that long and knew everybody in the bookshop, so we basically didn't have to line up anyway. But when the 7th one came out, I'm pretty sure we just went to Big W and bought it from Big W. And there was a line in Big W, but they had so many copies that, it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah, by the time that 7th came out. Sorry.
My mum went and got me the last one. I think I was sick when it came out, and I remember her saying she was going to go up to Big W. It came out at like 5:30 in the afternoon, and me going, "They'll all be gone." And she went, "No, there's hundreds left. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
So it was more just because I was there for an event. Like, we were all dressed up for an event at Borders in the middle of the city. So there was a costume thing, and then one of the girls that I was quite good friends with got to open the very first box. because like she was voted as the best costume, and so it was really fun. But so at the time, I wasn't that upset about it because I was just like, I'm taking this book and I'm reading it so quickly, and it's going to be amazing. But it was like a month or two later, with sitting on my shelf, where I was like, oh, that kind of okay. Oh well.
Yeah.
So I've actually got a question for everyone for that hangout. Obviously, it's 2 months away, so it's not a big deal right now. But we have down 12 people coming to it, and I think that there's a pretty good chance that number's going to happen, or close to it. And as we've seen tonight, when we have 9 in the room, it means that probably there's a few people who talk an awful lot, and then a lot of other people are quiet. My question is, should we separate into 2 hangouts?
I don't know. Half the fun is being in a larger hangout, like that's sort of.
I agree. There's definitely, I'd say there's a pretty good chance, because that's the 12 that are definite. There's also a whole heap of maybes as well. It's the biggest number of people saying they're coming to a hangout I've ever had, and I'm like,
wow.
Well,
when is that hangout?
Do like a rotation.
When is that hangout?
The hangout is, I think, the 18th of March, somewhere.
Yeah, see, I'm not a definite, even though I might. Did I put myself down as definite?
Let me get in there and I will check.
Because I may have said yes, I'm going, but that will depend on when this one decides to turn up. So.
True.
Because I'm due on the 4th, so. You know, I may either.
Or maybe.
Like, yeah, because
you are a maybe. So that means it's 12 people. That does not include Matt either. You are. So I've got 12 people saying yes. I've got 2 maybes. That's you and Erin. Matt's not down at all.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Well, but there are,
I won't voice any opinion on either way because I may not be there.
Yeah.
Because even if she does turn up on due date, 2-week-old baby, I remember what that was like.
To be fair, there's a lot of people who have said yes who often don't come. So we've got June, Leila's down, or Lila, I'm not sure, Chrissy, Holly I think's been to 1, Tegan, I'm not sure if Tegan's ever been to anything.
So you could just play it by
as
ear
normal.
and see. Yeah.
And then we have people drop in and out quite a bit, so maybe when people drop out, we can have other people drop in. I don't know.
Okay. That's what I was just going to say too. Like I may turn up and just have a quick chat and then go.
Yeah.
And that will.
And I'm happy to sit in group chat if I have to.
Yeah, and we've also got Skype, so if there's 1 or 2 people who get later and then someone drops out, we can say, hey, join us, or pop in.
And if need be, Matt and I can sit in the same room and talk through the same microphone.
In the same room.
I think what's important is that when there's somebody in the room, it's better if there's more than one person in the room chatting, because otherwise they end up just watching and there's no one really talking to them.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened, I think, last time we had a hangout. Was it June? Somebody was sitting in the Skype and kind of talking to an empty room, and I felt really bad for them.
I did keep clicking back, and then it's hard to remember to look at the Skype while you're doing the
and the time delay makes it difficult too, because we've often moved on in the conversation and you're trying to sort of keep going back to the old one. Whereas if there's more than one person in the room watching, they can talk to each other and it doesn't get quite so...
Well, if we fill up one room, we can always keep the option open to have a second one and just start up a second one.
Which is sad that they never added like that feature where you could chat down the side if you're like a guest or something, that you could chat down the side. That would have been so much better. You get that in things like and other things like what is it called, Twitch, where you know you're watching and you can actually write in the comments to the side and people can see it.
Yeah. Well, technically you can do it on the YouTube page, and I think it has...
Whoever watches that.
No one ever watches it, that's the problem. And it's always had a delay as well anyway, so it never really mattered much in terms of that versus the Skype. So,
No, we'll just play it by ear, I reckon.
Yeah.
You know
Alrighty
we're pretty easy with things, Mel.
I was just more thinking I need to make sure I've got somebody who's willing to and able to run it if that happens, because
Well, I know how to start one, so they'll just have to like invite themselves.
I might actually see if Sarah can, because I think she's got the most up-to-date circle.
Yeah.
That's actually the biggest problem I've had since with Google Plus changes. It happened about a year ago. They took away the feature which allowed you to share a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really affected my ability to sort of just give somebody else the ability to just start the Hangouts with the correct list. So
You can do like communities though or something now. Maybe we should start one of them up for Lud, because there's one for VF down under.
I think
Maybe we should start one of those.
Oh, right, yeah, you're right.
I'm not sure.
And that way everyone can see who's in there. And
I'm not sure if you can run a Hangout from that.
That's why I'm just checking now. Hangout. No, that just sorts the details. I can't see that it actually lets you start a Hangout from it. Let me just go.
That would be an updated list for everyone, so that they could keep their lists updated as well.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to worry so much about who, like, if someone could just jump in at the last minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where I had a really hard. Yeah, there you go. I can actually, from the list, when you go to start a Hangout, communities is one of the things you can choose to add your people from.
Wicked. So
Awesome.
maybe we should start one of them.
Yeah.
Then everyone's got access to that.
Yeah, because that was when we did the revision of people who were in Land Down Under. That's where I had the hardest time, was between matching the names between usernames on Goodreads, on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
It was a fun time.
Oh, you're so dedicated.
It's all right. We got there, and most of the rest of it doesn't actually take any time. That one was just a bit of a time-consuming time. That one. So.
Kitty. Hello, Kitty.
Wow. Just walking across everything.
It's pretty much that. Everyone's got their kitties out.
Yeah, Kiki walks across my desk, and then she knows she's not supposed to be on it, so she sits behind the screen, and I'm like, what's the point of sitting there? You can't see anything.
I can still see you.
I can see her, but she can't see anything except like the edge of the desk. She's behind the monitor, and there's a wall between her. Like, you're just weird. Why are you there? But then again, just sitting behind my a set of drawers this morning, just staring at the wall. I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. If you face the other way, you can see like me and everything else, but no, she's staring in the corner of the.
Maybe she knows something you don't. Maybe there's.
Oh, she probably does. She was swatting at something. But she has also. I'm glad she doesn't do it anymore. But when I first got her, she kept chewing all my cords.
Oh no.
Yeah. Doesn't do it anymore.
My puppy did that too, and he does not do that anymore either. He would chew like power cables though that are plugged into the power. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop.
Well, I'm lucky she only chewed like all my thin cords, just the thin ones, so all my USB cables she was chewing. I've got little teeth marks on all my USB cables.
Oh God.
Oh dear.
This is why I like adopting older animals. They've usually gotten rid of a lot of those habits.
Well, she is at least one. She is one.
My Pharaoh, when I lost him, he was about one, and he was still scampering about like a crazy thing.
Tombo's two. I think she's type because Tombo's two. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. He runs around with her for a little while, but most of the time he's just like, ugh. She runs past and gets in his way. He bites her. Calm down.
I must admit, I'm starting to feel outnumbered having dogs instead of a cat in this group.
I have a dog too, if that helps.
Well.
We'd have both if we lived somewhere bigger.
I think if I wasn't
don't have any
so
pets,
busy, probably
You've
have
got
a dog,
children.
but at the moment, we got children.
Well, Matt.
You've got real children instead of fur babies, so
Yeah. We do want to get pets, but we wanted to wait until both of the kids were old enough
So
See, we do it the other way around. We're like, we want to wait until the dogs are old enough to
to do with the
consider having kids.
Attacked. Yeah.
And also, like, it's hard because I know Matt wants a cat, but I'd like a dog. And
yeah,
we don't really have the yard space for a dog where we're living at the moment, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep.
Anyway, guys, it is 11 o'clock at night, and I have to
it
work
is bedtime.
tomorrow.
I'm going to make dinner.
Dinner.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, we're in Perth. Only 8 o'clock.
Oh, yes. It's a bit earlier there.
It's actually dinner time here now.
So I have to say, Mum and I went shopping on Sunday, and she bought me a vacuum cleaner and a Nutri-Ninja. Expensive ones too. I'm like, she goes, have you got enough money? I said, I've got enough money to buy one or the other. She goes, I'll buy them both for you. I'm like, it's a Dyson vacuum cleaner that was about $700 bucks, an animal one, and the Nutri-Ninja, which also has the food processor and the dough mixer with it. So it's like blender, the cups, and
that
Dyson.
I bought one of those. They're amazing.
Stick one. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's an actual animal one. But it's got the turbo head, and with the vacuum I was using before, getting Tombo's hair out of the rugs was just absolutely impossible. This one, over at once, perfect.
It's got the spinning head in the top of it.
Yeah,
that's what we've got.
There's
so wonderful.
There's an animal hand stick one as well as an animal normal one. That's why I was confused. But the one I've got is the hand stick, and it's, oh my god, it's handy. Because it just hangs up and it charges, and you just pick it up and go. Although today I smacked my son in the head with it. It's so bad because the handle of it is where all the weight is, because that's where the part where it sucks everything into it. Yeah. And you know, like you're going like this back and forward when you're vacuuming. Well, he snuck up behind me, and I went bang, smacked him right in the face. I'm like, oh my god! It was fine. Like 2 minutes later, I gave him a cuddle, and then I lay him on the lounge, and I've got one of those like eye pillow type things that I keep in the freezer, and I gave that to him, and he's lying on the lounge playing peekaboo with it, and laughing his head off. So I'm like, obviously he's fine. But like,
if you haven't vacuumed with something at least once, you're not a parent.
He's going to have a black eye.
Right, let's go. Before we get into all of the domestic stuff. Bye, guys.
Bye. Mel?
Yeah?
What month am I?